Hello and welcome to the show supported by Mediaproxy. Now today we're talking PTZs and mini cameras, which are a vital part of how video professionals work these days.
Yes, of course, they're everywhere, and we've spoken on a couple of occasions to Tod Musgrave from Marshall Cameras. And today we've also invited Spencer Doran from Marcam Europe, the UK and EU distributors, in for a chat as well.
Welcome back, Tod. Hi, Spencer. Good to see you.
Thank you guys for having us back.
Yeah, it's nice to be here at last. Thank you.
So, Tod, let's start with you. What challenges are you seeing at the moment in the marketplace? I mean, maybe you can give us an idea also how you've met these challenges over the last 6 months or so.
So I think we're facing the challenges I think a lot of technology companies are facing. Honestly, it's the surge in COVID variations recently with the Omicron, obviously. So we have to deal with labor shortages, which affects production obviously and at the plants, but it also affects the pick, pack, and ship and the and personnel at the corporate office. So that we just have to go work through. We have to cross train our employees to handle when somebody's out or somebody's in quarantine. Obviously, we have the masks and other restrictions in place for our safety. But if it affects the supply chain, and we've been very fortunate to not have too many disruptions, but a couple of things that we do is we go into the market and we buy chipsets, common chipsets used in automotive, technology, cameras, audio, and we source them in the market if they're short from regular suppliers. But simultaneously, we also are designing in easier to get chipsets with less supply chain disruption. Okay. So that takes a little bit of time to redevelop, retest, relaunch. Well, relaunch it on our side, but really there's not much change and only improvements in performance. But to redesign those takes a little time and simultaneously sourcing the hard to get chipsets on the market, sometimes paying more. Usually we're able to absorb that and we don't pass those along to our customers, but sometimes we might see a little bump. But we have avoided the blanket increases across the line, and only when those are affected will we make any changes on prices.
So, yeah, and what, it seems because Marshall Cameras does sort of stand out, you know, you're a lot more visible than many for us. So what differentiate you guys from the competition? I guess how does Marshall Cameras, how do you continue to set yourself apart from the others?
To be honest, I've been with Marshall for about a decade now, but Marshall's been in existence for over 40 years. So, and most of those years in broadcast and then Pro AV, but broadcast. So we start from a broadcast quality as far as video goes. We want those refined signals, clean signals, and high quality color and clarity signals. So, as you know, a lot of people know about Marshall with monitors. 10 years ago, or just over 10 years ago, we started with the cameras, and we follow those pillars to our success that were incorporated into our monitors. Yeah. Right, very good quality. We also collaborate, as you guys know, with a lot of different broadcasters in the industry. Whether it's an integrator or broadcast engineer at television stations in the broadcast industry doing live sports, live broadcast and streaming, we really listen to them. We incorporate those things that are important. We try to remove some of their headaches. We make them easier to use. But really, our integrity and broadcast quality is always something I do no matter what kind of camera we're developing, whether it's in broadcast, whether it's in Pro AV, whether it's in live streaming, whether it's in collaboration or video conferencing like we're doing now. But really following those pillars to our success in the monitors, I carry that over to the cameras and ensure we're using the best sensors and processors on the market.
So, Spencer, as a Marshall distributor, you must be witnessing quite a few trends in the market. Is it possible to identify key products that you're distributing in the regions you look after?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're still seeing a lot of movement towards the PTZ cameras, whether that be just a regular HD PTZ camera through to IP and NDI. And, you know, at the same time, we still see a great demand for the mini cameras, the point of view cameras. And the great thing about Marshall cameras is they're used in so many different applications, and that applications, they keep growing, and every day we find a new application that will surprise us and interest us. But for sure, definitely the PTZ is still on the march. But we've also seen a lot of people ask about IP and NDI, and in particular, we've actually just released a 605 PTZ, which is a lower cost unit. But when you compare it to some of the higher end PTZs, it gives an amazing picture quality, and people are demanding that. They want a USB-C version, IP version, so we're seeing a big move towards that. But the trends change on a daily basis with us, because the different applications and the amazing things we can do with the cameras, and the demand just keeps on growing.
And the other interesting thing that, or it'd be nice to know, is if you've identified any changes in the support levels that are required by your customers or your resellers. We're all working very differently, and you say there's lots of different applications. They're going to need different levels of different types and levels of support, or is it just business as usual?
It's definitely not business as usual. Tod mentioned a bit about the pandemic and how the challenges that we're all facing to do with that. There's a lot more people working from home, and a lot of them are using the Marshall cameras and the products we supply. And those who are not working from home, the amount of streaming has increased. So support is absolutely essential, and it's something we do very well. We're UK based, although we supply the whole of Europe, and the supply chain that we have into Europe is very efficient, very quick, very easy. And one of the interesting things is that level of support. Now, most of the cameras, to an extent, are plug and play. People are very happy with that. But the after-sale support is very essential, because just to hold the customers or the end user's hand to make sure that everything runs smooth. They don't want any hiccups when they're going live or recording something. So we work with in the UK with regular dealers, whether they're AV dealers, whether they're broadcast dealers, and the Marshall products cross all of those lines and anywhere in between. The same in Europe. We find that the dealers we work with, in the same way we have a great partnership with Marshall. Marcam has a great partnership with the dealers we work with and we partner with, and we expect and we get the support from them, or we give them the support so they can then support their customers. So sometimes it's worth paying an extra pound or the extra euro to buy from a good quality dealer, someone we work closely with, who's going to offer that backup and that support. The cheapest doesn't always mean the best. So, whether it's bricks and mortar company or whether it's one of the web-based companies, it's important that you choose who you buy it from. And, we back all our dealers up 100%, and they then back the end user up 100%. So and in turn, Tod will back us up. So there's a really nice chain there. So for sure, just make sure you buy it from a quality supplier.
So back to Tod now. Tod Spencer mentioned there that you've got a new PTZ out, a lower cost one, which sounds really exciting. What else are you planning for 2022? Can you give us any other sneak previews that you like to do?
Yeah, so the way I look at it is new releases, and then I look at enhancements to current cameras, because we're constantly adjusting, perfecting. And again, one of the good things about working with Spencer is our communication is so good. And if a customer has, maybe they need an easier way to do something, we can incorporate those things in adjustments to firmware and features and added things. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But as far as new releases go, I think we previously talked about our high bandwidth camera. So it's going to be our CV730 BHN will be the high bandwidth, or what some people call full NDI camera, coming out mid-year. Development of that was delayed somewhat by the pandemic, but we're fast moving through development and final testing, where we'll be able to be ready to go and shipping product by mid-year. We're also going to add a 20x optical zoom option to our IP and NDI models. So we have the 30x with the 8 megapixel up to UHD resolution. We're going to have an HD version in the 620 range. Will be 20x HD sensor, high performing HD sensor, but with the 12G IP HDMI, and then we'll have an NDI version. then we talked about our ePTZ late last year, I believe, on an earlier episode. But we're going to have, and again, a little bit of delays in development because of honestly getting manpower and working through the interruptions, right? But we will have a 4K 60 model, which I'm using now in USB form, but it also has IP and it also has HDMI output. Now, the advantage of this camera is up to 4K 60 and IP interface and USB, obviously, to plug into video conferencing and USB streaming. But we'll also have an NDI version of this camera. So in a very small format, the ability to move within a 4K sensor image in HD is very advantageous. There's no movement. It's all digital movement within the image. And we'll have some AI capability as well, some self-adjusting features. But that one will come out probably right after the mid-year mark in July and August. So as far as, and that's really, and then a few things at the back half of the year, but we've been very fortunate in the health of our development pipeline, especially during the pandemic. So we want to always to be adding to our line, to be adding different formats, NDI, IP, USB. The new 605 that you talked about is a 5x optical zoom with USB-C, HDMI, as well as IP interface. And then we have a 3G SDI version. Now, those are cool, really because of the wide angle of view it starts in, 85-degree angle of view to start, with some digital and optical zoom from there. As far as the enhancements go, a couple things we're working on. On our recently released global shutter CV568 and 368, we're going to be adding color matrix to it. So you'll be able to go in and match cameras and with certain selections and color matrix and temperatures and color. So that's kind of a cool feature on our mini POV line. Also, we have ND filter. We're going to have an ND filter 3-pack that'll have 3 different levels of ND filters for our outdoor cameras. So that'll be our 503 WP and the CV226 with optional caps with the different levels of ND filters, neutral density filters. So we get a lot of outdoor sports where sun glare is a problem. And there's other kind of stylistic things you can do with ND filters that's going to be cool for our outdoor cameras. We're also going to be adding to our 630s and 730s the free D protocol, which you find in much more expensive broadcast type PTZ cameras. And the idea behind free D is it sends camera positioning data directly from the camera to the virtual reality production system or virtual studios. You guys are familiar with that, with what you guys do, but it makes robotic camera maneuvers more realistic when you're using it within that infrastructure, and it makes more seamless within the virtual sets.
There's a lot going to happen in 2022 by the looks of it. Now, I've got a question for either or both of you. You know, we know you've got some pretty cool applications, but, you know, I just want to touch on that a little bit. Give us some examples. Can you share any cool or surprising environments that your cameras are being used in now?
Certainly, and we've previously and even currently are heavily in broadcast of all levels. That's television, that's sports production, it's reality TV, it's game show, and then Pro AV obviously is always fun in courtrooms. Has been growing quite a bit. House of Worship in the U.S. has been growing at a steady pace. Yeah. But I think the coolest, as far as I'm concerned, is the stuff that goes into space. And I can easily say that Marshall has more cameras in space than any other brand, from Earth, that is. I don't know what other planets are doing right now, but from Earth, Marshall has more. So all these things that you see, in which I like to watch in launching and satellite launch and International Space Station, a lot of these images are coming from our sensors and processors. Obviously, they don't take the full body, but they incorporate it and design it into their heavy space applications. Now, I'm always surprised when they tell me how well they operate in space, and I have to respond that we don't do a lot of testing in outside the atmosphere. So I rely on them to for that feedback.
Sticking with the space, I know that Tod works closely with some of the big American space companies and independent space companies which are based near the Marshall office. We in turn have supplied some of the board cameras recently for use on one of the European Space Agency rockets that just recently in the last week or so put up into space, into orbit, the space telescope for the European Research Agency. And
of course.
Amazing images of it sort of leaving the rocket coming back to Earth, and then the telescope disappearing into orbit. But as I mentioned earlier on, some of the applications are absolutely amazing. For instance, the PTZ cameras have used extensively last year in the South African versions of Temptation and Love Island, because they wanted to have them based there. And, you know, we've now got the 568 and the 368 with a global shutter. It's got Genlock as well, which are great for fast action sports. And then following from that, you know, we've got guys in the Czech Republic who are using the mini cameras on the ice hockey goals, and guys in Serbia who are using them, putting them in the hoops for the basketball. The applications are endless, you know, even down to some of the university teaching hospitals use our cameras to film mini heart operations, you know, kids' heart operations, and show them to the students at the university hospital. So the use is absolutely endless. It's quite an amazing.
I think what drives that really in the Marshall cameras from our perspective is we always try to design in versatility. We design in the fact that you can remotely adjust them. We design in versatility in lenses. So there's a lot of different applications you can use them for, but we start with broadcast quality, and we love that broadcast business because that is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, the other final thing I would add is we've also seen a lot of use with the zoom block cameras in commentary. Not only in, you know, we have the lot fitted into radio sort of studios where they'll show the DJ, everyone wants to stream what's going on the radio station. And just recently we put some into Qatar, where they had the Arabic, or sort of Arabic, but the Arabian football tournament, which is a forerunner for this year's World Cup in November. But they wanted to have cameras that would they could switch to show the commentators, and for that they extensively used some Marshall zoom block cameras. So it's endless, the application. And the other thing that people love about this, whether they're using it on the pop concerts and the big festivals have been on recently because of the pandemic, but the amount of cameras which are used for these tours, because they can put them in drums, they can put them all over the stage without getting in the way, is amazing. And above all is the service that they get from us, and in turn from Marshall and the people we work with to supply these products across Europe and the world. And the fact that the Marshall cameras are pretty much bulletproof as well. They can withstand, you know, harsh environments, you know, and they just go on and on.
I think one of the reasons we talk to you so often, Tod, is that you've always got something new. And I guess I'm quite intrigued, really, where your customers are coming from. Are they existing customers that are seeing your new products and they're simply updating, or are they seeing more diverse ways to use the products that you're developing? Or are you seeing a whole new wave of people coming to Marshall that previously would have never, you know, invested in a PTZ or a minicam before?
It's really both, because pre-pandemic, we were probably 80% broadcast and about 20% Pro AV. During the pandemic, that turned upside down, and it was really 90% Pro AV and very little broadcast, because not many people were broadcasting still, or sporting events and that kind of thing. But what we gained during the pandemic in Pro AV, and we're talking about the remote stuff, like like courtrooms applications. Our little mini POV cameras are used in courtrooms, so we can safely distance during trials with the shot from the judge, the lawyers, and the defendants, and that kind of thing, all in a quad view and capturing and streaming. So all those gains that we got during COVID and remote education and all these Pro AV stuff, remote house of worship, church production, that kind of thing, we've really kind of built upon that. So now when broadcast comes back, and we were getting a lot more of the sports, esports, and all these things that are happening, we were keeping our foothold that we gained in during the pandemic, and we're welcoming those new applications back. But it's also, like I said previous, all cameras start with a sensor. We select a sensor, we design, we develop it into what we think is a broadcast quality camera. Obviously, at different price points, it varies. But even the low stuff, lower entry level products, we pay a lot of attention to broadcast quality and easeability of use, as well as versatility. So now when we see these new applications, and as Spencer says, some of them surprise us, but it's a camera and it's a sensor and it's an output, and it's being able to remotely adjust it. It's making it stable within and collaborating with all of our partners, laterally speaking, making it effective and stable in vMix and control and OBS project, and all of the things that normally you wouldn't think about. We spend a lot of time in making sure you can plug it into all kinds of different workflows, and for it to be stable and remote controllable, and have those things that remove the headaches for our users.
Absolutely brilliant, all very good. And before we finish up, Spencer, quick one: can people call you direct to find out where to buy Marshall cameras in the UK and Europe?
Absolutely. If people want to contact us at Marcam Europe, for sure, whether it's a UK customer anywhere in Europe, Middle East, Africa, we can point them into the right direction. We can introduce them to a local dealer. He's going to take care of them and service them with that local support and service. Yeah.
And same to Tod. I guess the website hasn't changed, Tod.
The website hasn't changed. And I think to touch on what Spencer said, I work from the camera side, the production side, the design side, but having inventory and local support in Europe and the UK is paramount. I think Spencer can overnight a camera anywhere in Europe for relatively, affordably, and get those just-in-time cameras for the events that need it. Or if a camera is having some kind of issue, these guys can react quickly, replace it if needed. But it brings, and having different abilities as far as transactional and different currencies. Spencer is a huge support in Europe and the UK, and we really appreciate our partnership with them. But if you have, you can go to marshall-usa.com, review the new cameras, review specs and features of each camera, and reach out to Spencer in Europe and the UK, and we have others in the region as well. That is listed on our website.
Can I just add, sorry to interrupt, sorry to surprise you there.
Go on.
What we've recently done, we've launched a 2022 PTZ or Marshall PTZ camera catalog, and it's a great reference point which is available to download from the Marcam Europe website, and it's a great tool if you're looking for any kind of PTZ. It lists what we offer as Marcam through Marshall, and you can compare what's available, and you will find exactly what you're looking for. But if you can't, give us a call, send us an email. We'll definitely help you out and find exactly what is best for your application.
Brilliant. Pleased we got you both in. Thanks, Spencer. Thanks, Tod. Don't forget to take a look at, I'll repeat them just in case you missed it, marcameurope.com and marshall-usa.com for all you need to know. Thanks, of course, to Mediaproxy for their continuing support of KitPlus TV, and thank you for watching. See you next time.